Hi everyone. Lately, I've been studying an artist called Ryota Murayama, also known as Ovopack. They've been one of my long-time favorite artists, even way back when I first started drawing and painting. Their work has this really distinct flow and rhythm to it, and down to the way they handle their color, construction, and stylization in their character designs has always stood out to me. But funnily enough, I've never actually sat down to properly study or break down an artist's style before. So this is my first time really trying that. So hopefully you can learn something along with me. Here's one of the studies I did of his work last year. I mean, it was alright. I was mostly just trying to break down the construction and get a sense of how his characters were built. But honestly, I don't really think I applied what I learned afterwards. It was more like a one-off experiment than any actual study that stuck. Fast forward about a year, and here's another style study I was playing around with. This one wasn't specifically a Ryota study. I was just experimenting with that kind of stylized, cute anthro look. I wanted to see if I could capture that balance of simplicity and personality that his art has. And I think this was what kind of jump-started my interest again. I remember finishing this and thinking like, okay, this is alright, but at least I'm getting somewhere, so I want to keep going. So I did a second round of studies, and at this point I still didn't really have a clear direction. I was just studying the pieces that caught my eye and seeing what patterns showed up. But the biggest thing I wanted to focus on this time was this demon looking character. I realized something while I was repainting it, and it's that while Ryota's work can sometimes look super sketchy and loose, it works so well because the construction underneath is just god tier. You know, every line feels intentional even when it's rough, and it just made me appreciate how much foundation goes into a style that seems sometimes very effortless and not rendered on the surface. Those previous studies did help me get a better sense of the rhythm and the flow when it comes to stylized designs like this. Since I was happy where I was, I decided to start doing some value studies of Ryota's work. The important part for me here wasn't to copy the image exactly or perfectly match the values. Instead, I tried to limit my value range and focus on how he separates his value blocking to guide your eye. It was definitely a bit tricky. I was trying to take in a lot at once, like shape hierarchy, proportion choices, areas of detail versus rest, and even the posing. But it was really interesting to see how all of these things work together in his compositions. I did a final sheet which included a few other artists as well, mainly Rudy Siswanto and Ming-Chen Shen. I added them in because I wanted to take everything I learned from all these studies and try to apply it to a new piece at the end. Cause so far, everything in this video has just been me copying and studying. I know, lame. Also, I just wanted to note that I think the biggest tip for me when studying artists is to remember that you're not trying to copy their work one for one. Instead, you're trying to understand their design choices and their decision making. If you combine that with your own natural way of painting or drawing, you'll start to develop your own unique style, something that feels influenced but still authentically yours. Finally, I could take everything I learned from studying and actually try to apply it. My challenge for myself was to redesign an existing character in Ryota's style. Since I was already studying Rudy's work, I figured I'd go with Smolder from League of Legends. His aesthetic and overall design already felt pretty close to Ryota's vibe anyway. I started with an initial gesture sketch, just trying to feel out the overall pose, and I didn't really change much. Partly because that one little lifted paw is just too perfect for Smolder, and also because I'm lazy. But here, my focus was mainly on shapes and proportions. Next was the cleanup sketch. This part took the most focus because I had to think about how to translate Smolder's design into Ryota's visual language, and that meant figuring out what to omit, what to exaggerate, and what to keep, while still maintaining the character's likeness. The appeal really comes from a strong foundation, so everything I did here mattered. This stage basically drives how the rest of the piece turns out. Once I was happy with the sketch, I moved on to blocking in the values. This is where all those earlier value blocking studies finally started to pay off. To be fair though, I was working off of well-designed characters with solid and meticulous shapes already, so it might have been a little tougher if I was starting from an original design, but I kept it simple, maybe 3 or 4 tones, just enough to show the structure and the flow. I could have stopped there, but I kept going because I was having a lot of fun. Since the foundation was solid, the overpaint step felt pretty smooth. I cleaned up the transitions, added a bit more form detail, and punched up the values for more contrast. Oh, and of course, I added a little rim light to make the character pop. For the final step, I just threw a quick color blending mode over the black and white painting because, again, I'm lazy. But honestly, it tied everything together pretty nicely. Overall, I'm happy with how this turned out. It felt like I could actually get a somewhat likeness of Ryota's style. If I were to do it again, I'd probably push the gesture, exaggeration, and shape contrast more. Ryota's work has this effortless motion and charm that I feel like I only captured a part of. I think this study helped me understand how important structure and simplicity are when it comes to stylized design. It really taught me to not skip over the initial steps and how important it is to really focus on your foundation and early stages. Anyways, thanks for sticking around and watching me figure things out. Hopefully you learned something too, or maybe got inspired to study an artist you've always admired. And if you liked this video, be sure to check out my other socials here. Anyways, bye.